Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here at Ignite Change Global Convention 2023. Special thanks to John Humphrey Center for Peace and Human Rights. My name is Zian Chavez, and I use she, they pronouns. Good evening, and I want to thank you for having us. We're so honored to be here tonight, and we're first going to share an extended clip of our social justice documentary feature film, We Are the Most Beautiful People, Adults with Disabilities. After the clip, we're going to provide you with some content that we've explored while interviewing individuals with disabilities from around the world. We're also going to share with you our music video at the end of our presentation and have time for a Q&A. In our presentation, we will be talking about topics that might bring up feelings for you. If you have some art materials available, that'd be great, so that while we are presenting, you might use them to self-soothe or express thoughts or feelings you might be experiencing. You might not have access to a wide variety of materials, and that's okay. We suggest keeping it simple. Paper and drawing materials would be great. If you want to use something else, please make sure what you choose is something that is soothing to you. We will have time before our Q&A to chat about the art and about how the process helped you during the presentation, if possible. At that time, you are welcome to share your level of comfort. Please remember that while we are art therapists, we are not able to connect individually with each of you. If things come up, please share them with your support person or someone in your life that is trusted. First of all, we will introduce ourselves briefly and also mention our roles in the production of the film.
Maybe we could have that first slide, Renee. Next one. There you go, Z.
Hi. So my name is Zian Chavez. I have a disability. I am also an artist, activist, queer, non-binary, Spanish, indigenous, neurodivergent human. I'm a filmmaker and an experienced art and body-centered art therapist. I started working with young adults with disabilities around 25 years ago. I went to grad school at Southwestern College in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I'm from. After grad school, I moved to Portland, Oregon, and started working with different nonprofit organizations working with adults with disabilities. Today, I proudly run an art therapy program at Multnomah County with HIV-positive Oregonians. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 30 years ago when I was in my early 20s. Now, I'm so honored to be producing an amazing social justice documentary about adults with disabilities called We Are the Most Beautiful People. Now I'm going to turn it over to our director, B.A. Short.
Hey, everyone. Thanks again so much for having us tonight. It's truly an honor to be invited to be a part of this. I'm an art therapist. I've been in practice 25 years. I'm also an artist, an author, an educator, and also now a documentarian. I directed and edited the film. I'm also a non-binary person, and I use they, them pronouns. I also recognize that I do have some privilege. While I am a mixed race individual, my dad's side is Maliseet. I also recognize that many of my privileges lie in my ability to pass. And while I'm very white presenting, and my disabilities are what they call invisible disabilities. I myself wear hearing aids and experience hearing loss from Meniere's disease. I'm also neurodiverse, and I also have stenosing tenosynovitis, which is trigger finger, which impacts my hands that are vital to all of the work that I do. And growing up in the 70s and the 80s, there wasn't much support for ADHD, which I wasn't really diagnosed until I was an adult. So transferring it over to you, Robert.
Hi, my name is Robert Lafady. I want to thank you for inviting us tonight. I am the cinematographer for the film. I have been a director of operations and operations manager for more than 30 years, during which I had the privilege of overseeing large teams of various locations across Oregon and Washington. Currently, I'm an operations manager, and within my company, I've helped create a production company that creates training videos for various manufacturers we represent. I direct, film, edit, and publish these videos for our manufacturers across the United States and abroad. That being said, I do recognize I have privilege as a white cis male. I also recognize that many of my privileges lie in my ability to pass. I'm white presenting, um, and I do have severe PTSD from childhood and adult, and I'm neuroverse. My disabilities are unseen. So now that you've met us, now we're going to play the extended clip of our film.
All right. So if you could play that extended clip, that would be great. I hope you have your art materials ready.
My name is Diane, and I love you. I'm making this film, We Are the Most Beautiful People, because first, it's something I inherently believe. We all want to be seen for who we are.
Me, beautiful means anything that makes me feel, because I think there is beauty in like sad things as well, and there's beauty in some things that make you really angry. So I think for me, it's anything that's emotive, because I use the word beautiful constantly.
For another time, but talking about myself and thinking about that term disability, honestly, I love it. I mean, some people say, how can you love that, right? You know, you're a Black person and they feel like, well, that's got to be your identity first. But I'm also a person with a disability, and that's who I am. And so, unfortunately, there are those who, you know, maybe in their next lifetime won't see those disabilities and won't see those identities like that. I mean, I can't say that it'll happen or not. I doubt it, of course. But for me, I have faith that who I am will just continue on, regardless of whether or not they want to be negative about that or how they want to see me.
You always hear about racism or sexism or ageism, but you hear less about ableism.
Why isn't the disability justice movement in history books? If they don't see us, they don't have to write about us or talk about us.
So disability justice, came from people of color in the Bay Area, Patty Burns, Stacey Milburn, myself, Mia Mingus, and we put it out there because we realized that the disability rights movement was so white and didn't really put race and queerness and transgender people, together. So we came up with, especially Patty Byrne, came up with disability justice, in our artistic disability communities. We never thought that this topic would be like an academic term because it came from the community.
Just to like wake up to the power that we have. We are, some estimates say like 20% of the population, but we know that it's closer to like 30 to 40% if we count in like all the ways we define disability. That's a huge like amount of people of this population. Not only that, but disabled people, we naturally merge across every race group, across every, you know, gender group, nationality, etc. We have this perspective where we are always also members of another community. So like there's an inherently like intersectional nature to the way anyone experiences life. But I think it's really salient for disabled people, or has an opportunity to become more salient quicker in our development. And that's useful. But I want the disability rights movement to change movements, period. Like to change the way we think about organizing in general. Because as someone that spent time youth organizing, queer organizing, immigrant organizing, super ableist cultures, and just like the pace of work, the amount of sacrifice, the martyrdom that goes into it, you need almost like an unrealistic amount of like privilege, wealth, time to be able to even sacrifice that in the first place to make a difference, right? When a lot of us feel like we don't have much to sacrifice with. Like when we show up to these like movements or protests, it's like all our energy, all our time, our whole body.
There's definitely a governmental divide, you know, because they put the kids in one area of funding, they put the adults in another area of funding, and then they further split the adults by saying those with physical disabilities and those with intellectual disabilities. And there's three of us sit here fighting over resources that shouldn't be like divided amongst the three of us. You know, it should be, you know, we all receive funding individually, so we can team up as a team and actually go after the one person that's causing us the most problem, which is the government.
Girls, women and girls with disabilities face multiple discrimination. We are at the bottom as compared to men with disabilities and women in general.
Well, that could be a hard question, really. Hearing and deaf people, you know, that it's not equal. Communication is really a challenge. Sometimes we have to write notes, and it's just very difficult to understand. And it's easy to get discouraged when there's not clear communication, trying to explain how this happens or how that happens, and trying to get justice in this area. And so some people will stay away or shun deaf people, and we really need to be working together to communicate. I remember in school there were people that would get away and shun me, and some even friends, good friends when they treat me on their level, then begin to understand and feel like there's justice. It's hard to raise this to a higher level. I'm deaf, and they say, "Oh, you're deaf. Oh, you're deaf. Oh, you're dumb." But you know what? I just keep on going. I'm deaf. We're the same, I realize. And God made us all.
Yes, we are not fully realized until we are fully inclusive. Meaning, you can't talk about wanting disability rights or justice and be homophobic. You can't say, I want women's rights and be racist. So that's what it means. Is you can't talk about Black liberation and hate Black trans. You can't talk about economic upward mobility, but they don't want to teach people with disabilities entrepreneurs. Like you just can't be contradictory. I can't demand my freedom while being an oppressor.
The disability rights movement need to embrace the disability justice movement, which embraces principles like intersectionality, leadership of the most impacted, and being anti-capitalist as being cornerstones of the movement. The movement also needs to come to terms with how it applies to our cultures and how interableism is something that everyone deals with.
So ableism is just it's a privilege. And again, I have to tell people that that's not just physical disability, they're invisible disabilities, like my hearing loss. If I take my hearing aids off and don't speak and walk down the street, you would not know that I had a hearing loss because I look just like you.
I think people really need to look at the way that they are talking to and treating disabled people, because often they just treat us like a child, and we're not. A lot, like even if there is a disabled child, don't treat them like a baby. Like treat them like a human being. That's what they are. So
working in Young Charitable Trust, working with people who are specially abled, has actually taught me a lot about myself. It's taught me how to be patient. It's taught me how to, I mean, I thought I was empathetic. This has just taken it to the next level. Unconditional love, a non-judgmental, a friend, not, people who don't judge. I think these are qualities that every human being wants in their life and wants for themselves. And I think being surrounded by people with these disabilities, one tends to automatically become like that, because in a weird roundabout way, having a person who's specially able in your life is therapeutic in nature.
For me, the most beautiful thing is when a person or people can just be their full self. That like really unadulterated authenticity of loving who oneself is, and just knowing that that's not perfect, knowing that that is complicated and messy, knowing that there are contradictions, but just being proud of all of that, not shying away from the parts that our culture and society tells us are negative, but really just being like, this is who I am. And every single part of who I am, whether it's my disability or whether it's some part of my personality, is good. It's good. It doesn't mean I can't become a better person. It doesn't mean I can't strive to learn more or be more compassionate or whatever it might be, but it's this sense of all people are beautiful and good. And sometimes it takes our brains a little unpacking and dismantling of things we've been told through our culture to understand that. And so to me, the beauty is in that self-confidence and in that wholeness, but it's also in the process of dismantling the things that keep us from getting there. That's actually like a beautiful process too.
I do personally think everybody is beautiful, but I don't know that the whole world would agree. Art therapy, for me, with many people, especially adults, has meant finding their creative voice, finding their style, their rhythm, whatever, their way of speaking visually, which is unique to each individual. And yet, if they are pleased with what they're doing, not only is the creation beautiful, but I think they feel more beautiful for having made it.
So the word beautiful, for me, it's seeing people for who they are. Doesn't matter where they come from, what their background is. They may not like you, but you can still see them for who they are. You can still connect with them. And if you're able to do that, it means that you're human. You know, we are all human and our humanity is beautiful. And I just appreciate that about individuals, to share with them, to have that shared understanding, to connect with them. That is beautiful.
Forever since humans existed, there's been disability. We should be further. We should be further. We live in this world together. Thank you. Thank you. BA, were you going to say something?
Yeah. So Renee, you can pick up that next slide that comes next from where we were. And then Zian's going to kick us off. Yeah. That's the one.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. So, what is beautiful, right? Um, the title of our movie was intentionally chosen to challenge the concepts of beauty in cultures worldwide. In our interviews, we've observed that adults with disabilities are often marginalized, with Black and Brown persons with disabilities being the most marginalized. This concept became a thread that we pulled through the film. In addition to hearing each person's story, we also asked each of our interviewees what they thought the concept of beautiful meant to them. Next slide.
All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what is disability, which I'm sure you've already been talking about, but disability can mean many different things. People with disabilities often live with significant limitations in their own functioning, which leads to exclusion and full participation in activities that are often taken for granted by folks without disabilities. Individuals with disabilities navigate many environmental factors daily. These factors impact individuals both positively and negatively, and sometimes they can impede the person's quality of health and life. Some of these factors include physical environment, and also some are social factors like culture, attitudes, economics, and policies. It's also important to kind of shed light on the fact we're in the US here. I know that I think we're the only US speakers, but even with the passage of the American Disabilities Act more than 20 years ago, many health facilities here and services are still not fully accessible. In a recent survey focusing on 2,400 primary care facilities serving Medicaid patients in California, found fewer than half the facilities were fully architecturally accessible, and only 8.4% had accessible examination tables, and less than 4% had accessible weight scales. So as a result of this equipment not being accessible, many individuals with disabilities don't receive comprehensive exams. And additionally, there's absence in professional training on disability competency. These issues that folks face in healthcare practitioner training. This is one of the most impactful barriers preventing appropriate and effective healthcare. In a study recently of over 25,000 healthcare providers here in the States, including physicians, found more than 60% were unaware of their own implicit bias against people with disabilities. So these barriers, they can be found in all aspects in life, in the life of an individual with disabilities. They can be in perceptions and assumptions. They have been ingrained in cultures, and they can be organizational and part of a larger system. This might look like longstanding policies, procedures, or practices that result in unfair discrimination. And like I said, they might be physical in nature. Buildings or outdoor spaces that have narrow doorways, poor layout design, steps with no elevators, or narrow hallways. And additionally, technology, interpreters, assistive devices can make or break a person's ability to participate equally. In our interviews, we met Dr. Alette Coble-Temple, and Dr. Alette has cerebral palsy and is in a wheelchair. She was in our film, the clip that you saw, and she told us a story of how she was going to an event to accept an award at a dinner. And when she arrived, she found that the event was being held on the second floor, and the restaurant only had steps, so she wasn't able to go and accept her award. And this was just one of many stories that we heard. So, yeah. So I'm going to have you change our next slide, and Robert's going to talk a little bit about inspiration porn. Oh, you went too far. Go back. There you go.
So when we began our journey inviting individuals to be part of the film, some quickly agreed, while others decided they did not want to be part, feeling that it was a form of inspiration form. Inspiration form is a form of ableism. Much like racism and sexism, ableism is another ism that oppresses people. Basically, basically, ableism is discriminatory in favor of non-disabled ways of living. Extreme examples shows up in like that language we use, like saying words like psycho, crazy, and spaz. It's just a few. Ableism thinking seems the ableism thinking seems that walking in norm over someone who might be moving in a wheelchair. Ableism other people with disabilities. Stella Young, a disabled rights activist, coined this term inspiration form in 2012. Young saw individuals with disabilities being exploited and objectified rather than being treated as an equal.
All right. I just saw in the comments Sue Derringer had that same experience and wasn't able to attend an event because the door. I'm sorry that happened to you. Could we get the next slide? I'm going to talk a little more about another struggle that we explored, institutionalization. Lots of folks that we met with, some had this experience of being institutionalized. In my family, I'm not the only one who has disabilities. My brother Ray is the oldest of my siblings, and he was born deaf. My mom had the German measles when she was pregnant for him, and he's 15 years older than me. So he experienced a very different version of life in our family. In all families, each person has their experience, but his was also impacted by being the only person who was deaf in a hearing family. He was sent away at a young age, and the majority of his childhood spent time at schools for the deaf, not even coming home for the summer, but just holidays. Institutional is one of the ways people with disabilities were oppressed and still are, dating back to the mid-19th century. And it was a common practice in the US and some European countries. And as I said, it still is in some places. Often these folks faced unspeakable, secured, prison-like environments, involuntary sterilization. These experiences left individuals with physical and very emotional scars. In the 1960s and 70s, there was a movement pressing for deinstitutionalization of individuals with disabilities, so youth with disabilities could be raised with their family. This movement instigated new options for adults to participate in their communities, although this movement was never fully realized. And adults with disabilities are still struggling to have their needs met in an equitable manner. Just going to peek at the chat really quick. Seeing lots of great comments. Thank you. Another concept, the next slide, is about the medical model versus the social cultural model. And, groups with power create norms in society. And these norms are the basis of many systems that we have to navigate as humans on this planet. The medical model of disability observes that individuals are disabled by their disabilities and looks for cures or ways for them to participate in these established norms. In the social cultural model of disability, disability is caused by the way society is organized, and it also focuses on examining and changing the limitations a person with a disability might face, like barriers to participation. This shines light on disabling environments, like I've already described. This model shifts the solution from pushing a person with disabilities to fit into these created norms to finding ways to increase participation and engagement by all. The social cultural model sheds light on stereotypes and assumptions around what individuals with disabilities can do. Just people with disabilities can work independently, have a sex life, have kids. Yeah. So the next slide is a little more about us as humans. Each and every one of us have social locations or intersections that make us unique. A few examples you can see here, gender, race, yeah, you can see the whole circle there. Some of these intersections contribute to the marginalizations of individuals who are not in a place of power. So now we're going to look at the one that I made. This is a piece of my art, the next slide. And this is, this was in the film without the words on it, but on the clip you saw. But you can see on here, you know, there's parts of social locations within the form, the human form. And then outside of it, there's those isms that are that like ableism or colonialism or, you know, racism, those types of powerful systems that are impacting this human. And then we also have events. Movements have been happening since there have been systems of power. And these movements, you know, these systems of power have oppressed people. And so in this slide, you can see the layers of systems of power that interact with our social locations. These systems may reside in economic, social, or political problems. And these oppressed people realize that there are others experiencing the same struggles and want change, thus movements. So I'm gonna pass it on. I've been talking too much to Zian. To worldwide experience. Renee, do you want to switch to the next one?
Thank you. Thank you, BA. Yeah, the worldwide experience of disability. In our journey creating this film, we were fortunate to meet with folks around the world, both virtually and in person. The United Nations recognizes human rights and fundamental freedoms in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and international human rights law. This right is collective and should be taken into account in policymaking. It should also be recognized in the provision of needed services. Each person should benefit from the same rights as the other individuals within their communities. We have interviews and disability representation from Ghana, India, Taiwan, Chile, UK, and the US. These interviews include 2 individuals actively working with the UN, Gertrude Ofarina Fifoame of Sight Savers International. Ms. Gertrude Ofaria Fifoame is an expert member of the United Nations Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, CRPD. Maria Soledad Cisternos Reyes, a blind attorney who is a special envoy of the Secretary General on Disability and Accessibility. All the individuals we encountered are looking for the same rights and opportunities as others in their communities. This includes access to justice, education, language, health, and an adequate standard of living. There are still individuals with disabilities undergoing forced sterilization around the world. Worldwide, we found disparities. While statistics show approximately 10 to 15% of the world's population are disabled, it is likely that in actuality, this number is larger due to underreporting. And with COVID, it's much higher. Currently, no global data exists on the number of Indigenous people with disabilities. We believe that this is due to the fact that Indigenous people are less trusting due to their experience of colonization. Now I want to talk about equity next, we're going to talk about equity next slide, Robert.
So in our journey, we had the pleasure of meeting SATA, Self-Advocates Taking Actions in Portland, Oregon. This group advocates for the rights of those with disabilities. In the US, direct service care for adults with disabilities continues to be overlooked. In 2023, reports from United Cerebral Palsy and the American Network of Community Options and Resources, aka ANCOR, workforce and funding issues continue to be an issue and have escalated in need leaving individuals denied service. At the end of 2021, 481,000 adults with disability were on a waiting list for home and community-based services. The report also shows that 60% of providers have discontinued programs in the past years, and 80% of individuals were denied services. The biggest problem is that there's not enough people to provide the services, with the average pay being $13.35 an hour to provide this intimate and vital need for care. Additionally, those who work in direct support are overlooked, unable to take care of themselves, resulting in anxiety, sleep difficulties, depression. All this despite the 1999 Ellsberg versus LC decision, where the U.S. Supreme Court concluded that undue institutionalization constitutes discrimination prohibited by the American with Disability Acts, and it provides to adults and disabilities, signed into law nearly a decade ago. Disability law can be complex and are not always seen through. Additional concerns for individuals with disabilities and emergency preparedness and access to health insurance. Statistics states that approximately 75% of people without disabilities have private health insurance, but fewer than 50% of individuals with the more complex needs of severe disability and privately insured. While public insurance does not provide coverage from individuals with disabilities, it does not cover all people. Statistics also show that 28% of individuals with emotional disabilities are uninsured. Overall, reality is that people with disabilities are much more likely to miss getting their medical needs met because of cost.
Thank you, Robert. And I want to mention that those statistics are US based and for our insurance. I know that there's our system is lacking. So I want to talk about, next slide, please. Mental health and aging and suicidality. While there is limited data available regarding suicide amongst individuals with disability, a survey from the CDC in 2021 indicated that adults with disabilities were 3 times more likely to report suicidal ideation, and that is just those who reported. Individuals with disabilities have many fears and worries that impact their mental health. These fears include losing their autonomy, poverty, pain, suffering, and also not being taken seriously or listened to. Individuals with disabilities face additional struggles that they may include health issues that come later in life, like diabetes or cardiovascular disease. In a 2015 article published online by the American Public Health Association, studies showed that individuals with disabilities have higher rates of chronic disease than the general population, and individuals with disabilities are less likely to receive preventative care. This report went on to identify that individuals with disabilities are 1.5 times more likely to be victims of crime and also experience sexual assault, violent victimization, and intimate partner violence at an increased rate to those without disabilities. Unfortunately, individuals with disabilities are less likely to report, resulting in inadequate social and emotional support for mental struggles they experience, including depression or anxiety.
All right, Robert, I think you're up next. Yep, there you go. Thanks.
How can we change these dramatic findings and the state of living for individuals with disabilities? Being an ally takes consistency and showing up. Leroy Moore mentioned in his interview that allies can be helpful, but when they can also go back home after the protest. Another interview, Keith Jones talked about how if someone is an ally, he expects them to have their back. That means looking at ableism and recognizing the changes that need to be made as you confront them moment by moment and day by day. How can you be a consistent ally? Take the step back. Be in any discomfort you feel. It means that there's room to stretch in your understanding of human condition. Aspects of a marginalized person's life is often invisible to those who do not experience them. Wait, WAIT, what am I talking? Sometimes we get caught up in our own experiences and thoughts. Listening meaning giving your full attention. We cannot learn without listening. Self-education takes the time to do the work to learn more. Don't depend on marginalized folks to teach you. They have enough going on in their lives. Advocate. Support bills that increase the rights of marginalized people. Speak up when someone says something mean or discriminatory. Correct yourself if you make a mistake. Join events and consistently support folks working for a better life.
Thanks, Robert. So those were those ally pieces. So both Z and I have worked with individuals with disabilities in our careers as art therapists. I'm sorry, I call Zian Z. That's who I meant.
That's okay.
We have witnessed great work being done by others, including some nonprofits. We had the honor to visit some of these folks and interview them. They're in the film. We have their art in the film. Around the world, there was also Cafe Arpan in India. So this first slide that you're looking at, this is North Pole Studio, and this is a really great studio that supports individuals with autism and different intellectual and developmental disabilities. This space provides a place to thrive while also creating opportunities for these folks to have careers as working artists. So they have art sales, they have a website, they have their art on products, and so they can be working artists and get a wage. Next slide, please. And then FAME, we also got to go to FAME, which was a really fun day. They're a performing fine art and performing arts academy. They do such a wide range of things. Again, this is a nonprofit here in Portland, Oregon, serving adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And FAME, they provide classes from musical theater, songwriting, digital photography, poetry, and when they do these productions, sometimes they're doing productions that they wrote. So you're hearing the stories from someone with a disability about their own life. So we kind of went through our content pretty quick. If you want to show the next slide, I just want to show you there's our resources that are definitely available for folks. And we'd love to do some discussing with you. But I think next, what we'd like to do is first show you our music video. And then we'll come back and there's time to kind of do any reflection that you have on your art. We may not go the full 2 hours, but that's where we're at. So could you go ahead and play that music video for us?
I caught myself trying to get in a box I would never fit in. Cause it was filled with an illusion of lies. It was crowded, a whole bunch of people trying to crawl inside this cage, congested with the beauty of deception. They fell out the bottom when The keepers of the box said you were too old, too ugly, or too disabled. But see, this is how the controllers of humanity made the beauty industry the definition of insanity. Cause we're insane. That's why you never see a rapper with cerebral palsy on the main stage, or a model who had a stroke embracing the runway. Cause we run away from what the elite have taught our eyes to not see. We don't see people with disabilities as people. And I know cause I've been on both sides, but after 2 aneurysms and ignorance with ableism, my eyes can finally see we need a lesson in humanity. We are the most beautiful people. We are the most beautiful. We are the most beautiful people. We are. We are. We are. We are. Do you like what you're looking at? Cause you keep staring, looking all crazy. Oh. Hey, I'm different and I'm cool with that. I don't need to look like you to be beautiful. I'm still beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, yeah, I'm the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm still beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm still beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We are the most beautiful. So if you find that you're judging me because of my limp, because of my eyesight, because I can't hear you, because I don't talk like you, I'm still dope even though I don't walk like you. See, that's okay in this life full of difference. I still bleed like you, and I still hurt too in this beautiful world. So thank you for your ear and attention. Listen. We are the most beautiful people. We are the most beautiful. We are the most beautiful people. We are. We are. We are. We are.
Our theme song was written by Tony Hickman and Matt Mack. I see Sam Mason knows who that is. Matt Mack is a blind OG Cree music producer and artist in Canada, and he won the 2023 CBC Searchlight Grand Prize. And we're very lucky to have him a part of our project. Yeah. So do either of you want to say anything before we go into art share?
Well, I just want to say something about the video because the sound on my end was a bit choppy, and I think I just want, and that's why I put the link in the chat room because it's not like that. Robert, was it a bit choppy for you as well?
Yeah, it looked pretty rough to me.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's probably just technology, but please check out the video on YouTube. And yeah, so I wanted to, go ahead, BA.
So, tonight so far, what we've done is we've shared with you parts of the arc. And, we came up with this arc of what we wanted to shine light on, and beauty was our thread. We got to travel quite a bit together. We got to meet a lot of really amazing people on this journey, and I think about that, and I'm wondering if either of you want to have anything you want to share from our experiences.
There's so many different stories of our experiences, and sorry, it's just how we've all kind of, you know, grew together as a group, and it was just a really fun experience and learning. You know, I learned a lot from Zian, a lot, and I'm really appreciative for all of it.
Thank you, Robert and BA. Yeah, the journey for me has been really emotional, because I'm the creator of the idea of the film, and I wanted to do this in 2021. We were having all these movements, Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate, LGBTQI plus, and where was the disability justice movement, or not? I mean, where was the disability movement? And there wasn't, and so I looked back at my work with persons with disabilities, and my grandmother. My grandmother was diagnosed with schizophrenia in the 1940s, and she lived a very isolated life. And people made fun of her and called her names, and it's so it is very to me that I'm making this film, and I have two incredible crew members with me, B.A. Short and Robert Lafady. We have all grown and learned so much during the process of making our film, and we cannot wait for the world to see this. And so please, I'm asking everyone who's watching this, to tell a friend, to tell 10 friends, to tell all your friends about this amazing new social justice documentary, because it's coming out soon. We're applying to film festivals now, and we hope to get into all the Real Abilities film festivals around the world. And, all the different film festivals, we have applied for. But this film, it's calling to be seen. It really is, and it can change people's lives, and it can change the world. I mean, I'm a dreamer, and I'm not going to stop dreaming. I have that's all I'm going to say. So thank you.
So we had a question. How long have you been collaborating together? Thanks. I want to say your name right. I think it's Wesding Otto. We've been working on this for 3 years. I've met. Oh, good. I said your name right. Thanks for that. It was, in the beginning part of the pandemic, and Zian asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. And it didn't take long to think about it. I jumped on in, and then I brought Robert. Oh, I pointed the wrong way. It's so hard to see which way this goes. I brought Rob along with me because I knew about his great skills. And so, we're like family now. We've been traveling together, and you can imagine what that's like. Staying in different places and cities you haven't been in. We'd love some more questions. And also, now that we're at this point, if you've been making art, I wish I could see it, but we don't have that option here. But if you have anything you want to share about what it was like to make art while you were listening to us, that's one of the things we like to unpack as art therapists. And remember, you know, we can't do individual therapy here, but how was it to have process art with you? I know it's something I do a lot. So yeah, any questions or thoughts about your art making? Anyone out there?
I'm wondering if some of the producers like Nexus or and Lourdes in charge of or Renee, not Lourdes, I'm sorry, Renee, if you all can come back in and if you have any questions or so we can chat a little more.
If you want, yeah.
I'm trying to come on here. You know, this team has been so chatty all day on chat. Why are you all so quiet right now? I think
it's late.
Somebody was saying their jaw was dropping when they were watching the film because it was pretty pretty intellectually deep in many levels, that intersectionality piece, and that it was so that was a comment that I had in my private chat anyway. But
yeah. You know, that's what we're getting a lot from the extended clip and the music video, that it brings up so many emotions, and so that for us is a great feeling. For me, I'll share my experience because I know that it touched a core in you. You're having these feelings and you're like, where do I sit on this fence? Am I an ally? Am I am I an ableist? And I have family, that are ableist, and so, for example, like my brother would say, it's so easy, anyone can do it. And I'm like, that I've never told him that he's an ableist because he wouldn't understand it. But I mean, but to say that's so easy, anyone can do it. No, Paul, I can't. Maybe I cannot do it, and that's okay. But that's something that people with disabilities we experience on the daily.
I think also people, it's so implicit. I think that so many folks are reacting and saying things that they don't even realize they're saying and doing. And I think that's such a message about our culture, because it's just second nature. Like when we were talking about those different words that people might say that are ableist. Oh, it looks like we have something here. To explore the process individuals go through as they are learning to become self-advocates. The self-advocates taking action group, those folks were amazing. You saw that picture of them, SATA. They go down, they have their meetings at this really cool building that we went to that's totally accessible. And they go down to the state capitol and they protest, and they also work to get bills in place. They're very politically active. One of them has a radio show that I got to be on. They really work hard to get the word, to get things changed, to find change. I'm looking at the chat again here. I wonder what was the story that was more challenging for each of us. What's the story that we took, each of you? I see one of our dogs in the.
Hi, Maka. Yeah.
What story?
Robert, yeah, let's hear from Robert. What story was most brought up something for you?
I think it was Dr. Alette's, just her story about the that dinner really upset me. We're sitting there as the camera person. You're so busy doing other things. You don't really like when when I saw the movie in full, I felt like I wasn't even there because you're busy. But those stories that she told us, I mean, I was so emotionally upset over how she was treated, and she's such a beautiful person that really deeply upset me how she was treated. And I think she's a lovely person. It's hard to believe that she was treated like that. It was so unfair.
You know, one that really moved me, I took an interview on virtually, and it was with an art therapist in Taiwan. And some of her art is in the movie. And she has Marfan syndrome. And she talked a lot about how her culture looks at disability as a karmic debt that that they have to pay from a past life. And I thought that was really interesting. And then also talked about how even though there's that, people like want to know why she's the way she is, and then just how people treated her and so unfairly. So that was one that was really impacting for me. What about you?
I would like to add something.
Yeah, go ahead, Edward.
I find that it's very hard to find artists with visible disabilities in pop culture. How can we promote more diversity and inclusion in popular media? And how can we advocate for more content creators to come out of the woodwork? And how can we work with them to give them that exposure?
That's a good question.
Well, I think once you start following folks and you start putting good words in, your algorithm changes. I know that that's a thing. The more folks that you follow, you can look at who they're following. Like our community, disability community is pretty tight. And I think that we definitely support each other. Like Keith Jones, he's an incredible artist and also activist. And, you know, he and Tony have collaborated. Tony Hickman, who's on the song that you saw, they've collaborated. And I think they have something recently out. So once I always love to just see who they're following and who's following them and find people that way. But I think buy their records, look to these places like North Pole Studios and support artists. The holidays are coming. Support these artists that are making these amazing pieces of art that then are on affordable products. So they get more of a living wage back. Yeah. Z just put the title of the newest song in. I'm so hip hop. It's really good.
I love it.
By Tony and Keith.
Well, I want to say the memorable experience on the interviews was we both interviewed a childhood friend of mine, a neighbor, and she has a disability. She has lupus and she has a learning disability, and her two children have disabilities and had one passed. But this Maya Thomas, her story about the discrimination in the medical fields, it was beyond deplorable. I mean, so one of her children was like having a full seizure, and they were waiting hours and hours and hours, and they didn't. Well, eventually they got seen, but it was too late. The boy went into he did not make it, and stories like that. And it was not just one story like that. It was many stories like that. And what really upsets me and makes me really sad is that, and we all know this, there's discrimination just because the color of their skin, just because the color of their skin. that, and so that, I mean, BA and I are both art therapists, and we have been practicing for many years, and we know the discrimination because we see it in our practices, but to hear it over and over again, I mean, it was really challenging. And like Robert said, watching the movie, and it's hard to witness this, and so I'm honored that we have been able to put this project together, but I think each person is going to take something from it, whether it's going to be, I'm going to look at that person who's in a wheelchair every time I see her on the corner. I keep walking past them, but I'm going to stop and say hello. Something like that. Something that's going to change their perception. Yeah.
On that note, Z, someone in the chat, it's Wesdane again. How did you care for yourself while hearing and seeing these stories? I mean, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to say one line, and then if either of you want to throw in. But when we were traveling, after we would have an interview, we would go back to wherever we were staying, and we would just kind of like debrief with each other and just take space. That was always really helpful for me. Either of you want to add in there, Rob?
I think just when we all got back, we would get together and just, you're right, debrief about the whole thing. But I still walked. I mean, you still carry it. I still carry it every single day. It opened my eyes up to a lot of things. Yeah, those were, us getting together and talking was very powerful. At the time, it was us just talking, but it was really powerful, just processing everything that happened.
Yeah. Well, my process after each interview, and so it's for me, it's similar to when I see clients, because I have to come to my center. I'm a body-centered art therapist, and so coming back to my center and with my life full of gratitude and I appreciate every second of every minute, and I look at people, individuals with everyone has a story. Everyone has a story, no matter who they are. And if we can just listen to them and treat them with the dignity and respect that every human being deserves.
Yeah, and on top of that question that you asked, Zian and I are both therapists, and so I think that we've worked on our self-care practice pretty well. I know for myself, like I do meditation, I do yoga, I make my own art. I'm in my art studio right now. And we saw one of our dogs. Robert was holding one of our dogs. I think our pets, there's Maka. Our pets are very soothing for me. So those are some ways that I've dealt with that. And that's just not just from this movie, but in being a therapist, working with trauma.
So I just want to add another point. I agree, everyone does have a story, and sometimes it's hard to convey that to the world. And I'm just wondering, like, do you guys have any recommendations? Like, are there any resources that you would recommend to those with visible and invisible disabilities to help them create art like this? Like, are there grants or programs that support people to explore the creativity that would otherwise have difficulties because of their visible or invisible disabilities?
There are a lot of grants out there. We've done a lot of our searching here in the US, so that might not be as helpful for the folks up in Canada, but I mean, there are so many grants out there. There are people that want to support. And so you really have to do lots of searching. I totally recommend, if you have the opportunity, to take a little grant writing seminar. They have those kinds of things online to help make your grant polished, and so that somebody can I don't know, just kind of get a real good picture of what you want to do. But I think there's lots of grants out there. In fact, our film, we have been on a shoestring budget this whole time. We've gotten grants and sponsorships. United Cerebral Palsy of Oregon gave us a wonderful sponsorship. TriMet. And so, we had to do a lot of, Zian did an amazing job sending lots of messages to people, raising funds for this film. And, we're still in like post-production, and we're still looking for that kind of support.
What has been your like general public feedback and reactions for like these pieces of art? Is there any pushback, or is there any like, what's the general consensus that you've been getting, or what's the like ideas that the people have been giving you as feedback?
BA, were gonna say something?
I can respond, but I want to give you, I feel like I've been talking too much.
Well, it's interesting, Edward, that we have, our online presence is very minimal. We have 1,500 followers, and so we're still reining them in. And but as far as art, I want to get back to that, because yes, I'm an art therapist, but I believe everyone can make art and do it right now, like doing a scribble as you're waiting on the phone with customer support, or whatever you're doing. And art is great to share with your friends and your family, and but art is such an amazing tool for our well-being. And it's I know that art can change the world. And so if you're trepidatious about making art is available to everyone there. And sometimes people would be like, no, art's for children. When I heard my doctor say that, I wanted to slap him. I mean, right? I'm like, are you kidding me? No, it's not. And so art is for everyone.
So I want to just respond to Edward's question too. There's actually two answers. If you're looking for places to make art, this is from a previous question or to support artists. If you Google or search, however you search, open studios, and you could put the word disability in there if you want. They're called, or art hives. I should put that in the chat. I can do that in a bit. But if you search those kinds of things in your area, you can find a place to go and either make art or go support the artists there. Edward, in your question around response, I'm gonna be transparent. Okay. So some people have been very quiet after watching the clips. We've had some shorter ones too. And I think it's hard for them to admit what's happening in culture. And there are people who, and this, I'm not saying this in a mean way. I'm saying this in a way that we need to be informing people about. This is the movie shining light on stuff, right? What is ableism? Like, so many people, so many of my like friends will be like, what's ableism? Like, I have to like explain that to them. And I'm not saying that like you should know that. I'm happy to help them. And also I'm just kind of saying that in a way of looking at culture, that's not even really talked about. You know, it's kind of like Dr. Alette said in the interview, you hear about racism and sexism, but you hear a lot less about ableism. So.
Nexie had a question.
Yes, I do. Kind of like two-part questions. Like, how are you planning to measure the success of your film in driving social change? And the other part of it is, what metrics or indicators will you use to measure the impact?
Good question.
Yeah.
Well, for me, the success of the film will be when I hear people saying that movie changed my life. That I learned so much about myself through that movie. So when someone can go inside that, and have a one-on-one with themselves, and so that's what I learned. So, and that, if I can, but Nexie, I'm already hearing that from individuals that have seen the clip, seen the video, that they are, they're just speechless, and they, tears come out flowing, and it's just like, that is success. So I don't know how other way to measure it other than the feeling that I'm going to get when people say that was an incredible film.
Yeah, and I think also we're raising the voices of other people. Like, I'm not in front of the camera in this movie, really. I sometimes am voiceovering like statistics, but the more of these stories that we elevate and give them a voice, to me, that's success. The more people learn a new way of looking at something and evolve. We're supposed to evolve, right? We're humans. And so I don't have metrics around that. I'm not sure how to measure that. I mean, if we were going to do an art therapy research study, because I also teach, we would have people like do surveys before and after they watch the film, and then the survey. Data, but that's not what we're doing. We're here to raise these stories up, and these, be storytellers. Rob, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I just these people first of all, they trusted us. They trusted these, stranger or not stranger, they trusted us in their houses a lot of the times to share these stories with us. And I think it's our job to show that around the world, and that's a lot of responsibility. And so I mean, there's a lot of feeling about that.
There, in our music video, I went to a review for a music video, and the man who reviewed it said, it was just so amazing. He said that a piece like that, first of all, takes courage. And I mean, for me, that meant that was the highest accolade. I couldn't believe, but he was right. It takes BA and Robert and I, it takes, we had that courage to do this and to hold that space for the interviewees. It was great.
Yeah.
Well, I know time, I think we're going to run out soon. And, but I just want to ask in the chat if there's any more. Oh my goodness. Hello. Hi. So I'm going to put my email in the chat. If anyone would like to,
you can also
reach out
on the website. What? You can also, if why don't you put the website in the chat?
Okay, I'm just started typing already.
Yeah.
But yes, I'll do that.
And yeah, I saw Renee so kindly put our GoFundMe in the chat a little while back.
Thank you.
We always use your support there.
Yeah, right now, yeah, because we're applying to these film festivals, but we don't have any money to go to them. so we're still reaching out. And so if you know, the Humphrey Center is around, we might ask for you know, just a little help financially. I mean, because unfortunately, I mean, that is the worst part of making an indie film, and it's, but it's ironic because all the individual, you know, all the nonprofits, that's what they do all the time. You know, they need money to run their nonprofit, and so that's kind of where what we're doing, but we're needing it to get the film out. Yeah. Wait, did the website come up? No.
Yeah, well, I see it in the chat there. Oh, it's not
It's not linked. Let me pull it up.
But yeah, I think we're probably gonna wrap up here. I'm wondering if Robert or Z, if there's anything you wanna say to wrap up, or if Renee, you have anything you wanna ask us?
I'll let the three of you wrap, and then I'll do a closing and prep people for next things.
Okay, great.
I would just say go to our website and support us. I mean, that's the biggest thing right now is we need support for our next phase. So
yeah, for
sure.
Thanks, Robert. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, BA.
Want me to go? Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to each of you who are out there listening to us. And, you know, this is our first panel since we started this. We have one tomorrow morning also, but thanks for being our practice one. And it's so amazing. You're not practice. Just thanks for being our first one, right? Like
right.
Our maiden voyage here. I'm really, really thankful that you invited us to come and share what we're doing, and that people were here and listened. I wish I could make art with folks. That's like my favorite thing to do. And yeah, I wish I could have made some art with each of you. But I'm just happy to be here, and I hope that you'll support us, whether it's, you know, putting it out there on your social media, like share about it.
Yeah.
Anything will help us. So I appreciate that. And on to you, Z.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Renee, for reaching out to us and getting the ball rolling. And it's been an honor to be here with you all today. Yeah, I just leave with kindness and compassion and gratitude for this evening. So thank you very much.
All right. Well, it was super amazing to have you. I was just saying to one of the team earlier, it's like amazing 10 days of curating really a whole program and starting to see this all come together and having Zoom calls with people and talking about it. And I loved our Zoom call. I was really excited to have you all. So thank you so much for taking time. Kick butt tomorrow. I'm sorry you all.
Well, we were, I mean, this was our first one, and I'm never going to forget it.
Yeah, I won't. Yay.
Well, we won't forget you, and hopefully we'll see each other along the way and keep walking paths together. So thank you so much.